You're listening to Answers from the Akashic Records, a world of empowerment service from Aingeal Rose Ahonu.
You are very welcome. I am Ahonu, and with me is my lovely Aingeal Rose. As always.
Good morning, Ahonu.
I am blessed that she is here because we are referring to a session that we did quite some time ago that referenced freedom. And we are great advocates of freedom in all its forms, really. And we like to dwell in the realms of freedom in the spiritual sense, how we are free as spirits, but then how that manifests down into the physical. And where we're coming from with this in particular is many of you will know that we are publishing 100 books in the series called Answers from the Akashic Records. And what they are is they're published questions and answers from sessions that we have had with people over the last number of years. And the questions are very, very relevant. And one question in particular from book number 1 of Answers from the Akashic Records, which was just published in December 2016. So it's available now on Amazon and Kindle as well. And Kindle version is only $2.99. So get yourself a copy of that and read through it. But one of those questions was, can you see how the current political situation is looking in the United States? Now, we're not usually ones to talk about politics because it's in the mundane, it's in the area of the lack of freedom. But where we want to come at with this question is how we, as individuals and as a collective consciousness, are reacting to this, how we're dealing with the sense of freedom inside ourselves. And let's hear the answer to this first. Actually, I feel a lot of confusion right now. This is Aingeal Rose answering the question. I am saying that because if we had looked at things 2 weeks ago, there was a momentum that was going on with the political agenda that felt sinister. Right now, it feels that some chaos has ensued. Other things have come into the picture to delay the negative agenda's particular scenario. This is an important answer that I'm getting because it shows that as dire as things can feel in a particular week, the very next day they can shift. The very next week they can shift, depending on what happens in the world and what happens in people's consciousness. So right now, it feels that we're still going to have the corruption for a while. Ask me next week, because with free will and powerful forces, you never know how it changes. But before we get into that discussion, Aingeal Rose, I want to refer to another question out of that same volume 1 of Answers from the Akashic Records, because we were speaking about Paradise Earth, and we were speaking about the beautiful concept that is, and how Paradise Earth is inside all of us, and in that paradise is freedom. And we were talking about how this separation is taking place, and we're talking about a separation of frequencies on the existing earth plane. And people who have achieved self-mastery, for example, are functioning in a very different timeline on the earth. They can still be on the earth, but what they see and what they experience here is not anything like what another person sees and experiences. So we want to keep that in mind, that we're talking about the level of our own consciousness when we look at the political situations going on in the world today, but in particular in the United States. So what happened was, Aingeal Rose mentioned, just in passing, that about the 1984 scenario on Earth. And those of you who are familiar with George Orwell's 1948, 1984 book will know what we're talking about. But this person said, I've not heard about the 1984 version. What is this reality all about? And Aingeal Rose said, this is a reference to a book that was written by George Orwell in 1948 about 1984. It was basically a novel about what's happening on our planet. It was about how we were turning into a police state and we're losing all our freedoms. It was quite a dark scenario, actually. technology was dominating the world, and certainly we can see the effects of that happening now. What's different now, though, is that more people are waking up, and the potential to create new Earths, more to our liking, is very possible. So let's use that as a springboard, Aingeal Rose, to talk about freedom, real freedom, and how people are perceiving freedom now in this political climate.
Well, I think the most important thing that I'm seeing here is that we really do need to understand how powerful our consciousness is. And, you know, in situations that are going on in the world, especially now in the United States, there is such a tendency for us to fall back into the 1984 scenario. You know, if you look around, see what's going on in the United States, it definitely looks like a George Orwell scenario.
It does. In
terms of more and more crazy laws being passed that are, you know, taking people's freedoms away, causing conflicts in the world, causing, you know, country against country, culture against culture. And, you know, I too have reacted to this, not in a positive way. But what we have to remember is that Source has talked to us on more than one occasion about bringing forth Paradise Earth. And I want to talk about Paradise Earth just a little bit because it's a timeline that exists right now. So, you know, what do we mean by that? You know, what that means is that in the realm of consciousness, in the realm of all that is, there is a version of Earth right now that is a paradise that, you know, and what, you know, I've experienced it, you've experienced it in a dream, and it really is a state of being, a way to live where, you know, we're not separated by dogmas. We're not separated by whose God is more right than the other, or, you know, what type of religion has to dominate the world. You know, we're not, those things don't happen. It's a reality where everyone is loved and accepted. Now, imagine for a minute, Ahonu, what it would be like to know that you were totally loved and accepted. In other words, nobody was pointing a finger at you to point out errors that you've made, mistakes that you've made. You know, nobody was doing that. Everyone was just in acceptance of each other, allowing creativity to happen, allowing beliefs to happen. And the thing is we aren't talking about a place where where negativity and destruction and harming other people was okay. That is not what Paradise Earth is. Paradise Earth is when the consciousness of the people are not interested in that. It doesn't happen because nobody's interested in it. And the reason they're not is because they're too busy being creative, too busy creating wonderful things, you know, being in harmony with nature, creating new plant life, creating, you know, foods, wonderful foods for people that have a lot of life force energy in them. Nobody's doing anything to destroy what nature has created, to destroy one another. And I think because I've experienced Paradise Earth and you have as well, and even many, 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 many years ago, and I'm going back probably 40 years now, you know, there was a talk even then in the New Age community about certain disasters that were supposed to happen at particular times. And I remember one time a woman was having a group out at her home, and it was because there had been some prediction that something was going to happen to New York City, some destruction on the East Coast. One of those scenarios where it was supposed to fall into the water from an earthquake. And so this woman was having a group of people over to do a meditation to avert this. Okay. And a lot of this goes on, by the way, where people hear about predictions, and so they get together to try to put their mind energy in a way to avert these things. But when she took us into the meditation, and the message I got from Source is, don't do that, because in a way you're affirming its reality. If you're going to go try to avert it, you're already assuming that reality is in place, and then you're going to try to do something to undo it. Mm-hmm. Instead, Source showed me that right where I was, this location that I was in, it showed me a different earth. It was saying, okay, this is where you are right now looks. This is how it looks in Paradise Earth. And I saw this whole other reality that was right there in the same place, right at that moment. It's just, it was at a different frequency band, but it was a total different earth. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I've had other experiences of Paradise Earth since then. And Source has encouraged us to switch tracks, much like a train switches tracks, going down the tracks of a particular reality. And Source is saying, switch over in your consciousness to a Paradise Earth reality, okay, to bring the Earth in alignment with that, not in the 1984 scenario. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's very easy to be in the 1984 scenario, especially with what's happening in the United States right now. It's very scary. Many people are very frightened about the daily things that are being passed that are causing dissension, separation, and it's sad that the consciousness of any person could be there still after all this time, with all the wonderful things that are going on, the light that's coming in, the psychic awareness people are having, the past life memories that are being activated in the DNA, the new children that are here that are so gifted and talented and creating such wonderful things. It's sad to think there are people who are so fearful of ownership and survival that they're willing to have to separate even further, and they actually believe that that's a good thing. So it's, in my mind, the mind discipline, the consciousness discipline is a daily task. It's a daily task for us to be monitoring our thoughts, our feelings, our fears, and be able to be honest with ourselves about, what we're really doing with our consciousness. And isn't it time for us to be expanding our worldview into new possibilities instead of, let's go back to the old ways. Let's have, a dominant Christian society. Let's have, let's do everything we can to force people into, what the old Bible says. And, I'm only mentioning these because it's an example of how people get on their dogma and want to and have their identities attached to their dogma to such a degree that they're willing to, shun other people, kill other people, cause, more and more separation and division and pain and suffering. Okay. Instead, turning their consciousness over to the fact that, as Source has told us so many times, we don't have a right to kill another life form. Okay. And it was mainly talking about humans, in that way, because it did go into a distinction between having to kill an animal for food. That's for example, where the motivation is murder. Right. But in terms of another human, we don't have a right to kill another human. All right. Because Source always leaves the door open for personal redemption that could happen at any time for anybody in any particular way. All right. It has nothing, it does not oppose us taking somebody out of society, for example, that is murdering and killing and, locking them up just to stop them from doing that. but it does not agree with the death penalty, for example, or killing that person. Okay, so, but the parts of our consciousness, Ahonu, that are still in that mindset where we want to, we want other people to get theirs.
To be guilty.
To be guilty. We want them, you're right, we want them to be guilty. And we do things that are so hateful and spiteful. And, this is what we're witnessing now.
Yes.
In America. And, people don't know how we're going to come out of this, but certainly it reminds me years ago when I was in a particular marriage that was abusive. And it wasn't physically abusive, but it was emotionally abusive and mentally abusive. And, being of a spiritual mind, I kept thinking that, I just have to keep loving this person more. I just keep having to, it's okay. I'll just keep, really finding an excuse of why it was important, just to stay where I was, just to keep loving this person. And we could have another whole show on abuse at another time. But the point is that every time I would ask Jesus at the time for guidance, this man that I was married to would do something even more sinister, even more mean, horribly mean to myself, to my children. And it took me some years to understand that my lesson in that was to say no.
No.
It was about no. Yeah. It wasn't about being all loving and putting up with that, because clearly there's a distinction between things that are okay and things that are not okay. Things are either promoting harmony, cooperation, love, where each person takes a personal responsibility to what the quality of life is that they're donating. What are you donating to the quality of life? What is the quality that you are giving to the world? And if it is not something that promotes harmony, cooperation, win-win for everybody, okay, if it isn't that, then you're on the other camp of destruction. There isn't any gray area here. It either is freedom-oriented, cooperation, love, nurturing. That's really what I want to say. A paradise earth scenario is a nurturing, life-promoting scenario. It isn't a hateful, destruction, murderous scenario. Okay, so you're either in one camp or the other in your consciousness. And in my case, in that story I just said, my choice was, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay in an abusive situation under the guise that it's so spiritual to do that, which was an error in the thinking? Or are you going to make a choice to get yourself and your children out of that scenario, because they don't deserve that? I mean, all of those things really do create patterns in the mind of an individual that are traumatic, that are,
self-replicating.
Yes, they are. They're self-replicating. Mm-hmm. They continue into the future as patterns. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we really have to take a look at what's happening now, because we're at choice here. Okay, Source is saying, what kind of world are you going to choose? Are you going to accept this sort of stuff that's going on, that is going backwards really in consciousness? It's going back to more suppression, more control, more dictatorship. Okay, are we going back there, or are we going to take a stand for a cooperative world? And we're at that precipice now, where what we do shows us, are we insane still? Are we still insane, or are we sane? And there is no, like I say, there's no in between. It's one or the other.
Aingeal Rose, you've mentioned many times in the conversation today and at other times about experiencing paradise earth. And many people will know that we like to offer practical spirituality in a changing world. And those who have attended the live sessions that we've done, the group Akashic Record sessions, will know that we have actually engaged in a meditation to Paradise Earth at the end of those sessions. And one of the questions that was in volume 1 of Answers from the Akashic Records that we've just published was about the incoming Paradise Earth. And Aingeal Rose answered that Paradise Earth isn't incoming, it's in existence already. We just have to switch tracks so that we're aware of it being here already. And we want to give you that experience of Paradise Earth right here, right now. But we do it by way of a meditation. And many of our listeners will listen to our podcasts on the go, in the car, out jogging, or whatever the situation is. So we don't want you to practice this meditation to Paradise Earth while you're on the road. So we will play it for you at the end of this session today. So it gives you the opportunity to pull over or lie down or go to your bedroom or wherever and listen to this meditation to Paradise Earth, and that way you'll have a practical experience of that in your life. But before we do that, we want to take a quick little studio break, and when we come back, we want to expand a little bit more on those freedoms, and maybe we will talk about the program that we have planned, Aingeal Rose, for sometime in 2017 called the 8 Steps to Freedom. We may mention that just as something that we want to introduce because it's tied in with the chakras, and we are also introducing in spring a program of going through the chakras, all 15 chakras. People consider that we only have 7, but we will be going through over a 15-week period all of the chakras in turn, and that has to do with freedom also. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Years of research, thousands of profound statements, hundreds of sessions, miles of transcripts, months of listening, a vast archive of personal power and spiritual awareness awaits you. Join worldofempowerment.com today, a website of practical spirituality for your fast changing world. worldofempowerment.com.
Well, now we're back from the break. Thank you, Ahonu, for that. Okay, and just talking a little bit more about Paradise Earth so people understand the switching track part, Ahonu, because it's really about choice in your consciousness. It's like I was talking about earlier before the break. It has to do with what we're doing with our own consciousness and how disciplined we are in being aware of where our consciousness is and what it's doing. Okay, so when Source would talk to us about switching over to Paradise Earth, reality, is really about a choice. It really is a choice in your daily life, which reality you're going to energize. Okay, so you have to catch yourself, you have to watch yourself react to particular things and then catch yourself and say, okay, I'm having a reaction to this. It could be fear, it could be worry, anger, could be any of those. And then you have to say, you admit that to yourself without judgment. You basically say, yeah, this is how this is making me feel. And then at the same time you say, but I'm going to switch over to Paradise Earth where love is really the dominant factor. Love is really all there is in Paradise Earth, and expressions of love. Okay, so you're talking about a reality where, miracle-mindedness, expansive possibility is the daily fare, okay? Unlimited creativity, being welcomed everywhere, never feeling alone or abandoned. All of that is Paradise Earth quality. Okay, but it's a choice that we make. With that, though, there is a degree of honesty that has to happen where we can be honest with ourselves and say, well, this is how I feel about XYZ. Okay, but then I'm going to choose something else. Okay, so it's being aware of your consciousness, what it's doing, what it's thinking, what it's feeling, and then making a choice that is something that is more cooperative, harmonizing. And it really is about energy. Everything's about energy, because the big law of the universe is that like attracts to itself that which it is. Whatever the quality of your thoughts and emotions and feelings and perceptions are, you'll make more of it. That's the law of the universe. It multiplies what is. So it does matter with each one of us where we decide to put our focus. So, and when we talk about freedom, the ultimate freedom is that consciousness is moldable. Consciousness shifts in an instant when you change your mind. All those little elements in the cosmos that go towards creation and forming things, they coalesce instantaneously when you change your mind. Those elements, that stuff of creation that's out there, responds to your thoughts and desires immediately. And really, on one level, that's why we're in the pickle we're in. Okay, because the more we energize separation ideas and enemies and dogmas and all of that, the more we energize those, the more we're going to get more of what we have, as we're seeing evidenced right now. But if you switch your consciousness over and say, well, that's not the reality I want to energize. I'm going to energize a cooperative world, a world where, there's more harmony, there's abundance for all people. And this isn't a airy-fairy idea, because we've had many conversations also, Ahonu, about abundance. Sources always made the analogy of the many leaves on trees, the many blades of grass, the many pine cones that drop from a pine tree, the many seeds that a flower will emit each season. Look at all the acorns. We're not in a lack universe at all. What we are in, though, is a separative consciousness where people want to grab things towards themselves and hold on to them. We've never had a problem with food in the world. It's the distribution of food and what we withhold from other people and countries. And thankfully, there's many movements going on today that are counteracting that. We're watching more gardens and things being created in public places that feed their own population. There's a wonderful place in England, a city where the whole city is growing food on public streets to supply the whole city, and it's free. Okay, but those are other conversations. So my point is, there are many movements afoot today, movements that clean the water with clean energy, other forces of power that do not pollute. We do have all of that uprising now, and that's a wonderful thing. We just need more of the consciousness to be focusing on those sorts of creative things rather than the suppression of freedoms, let's keep this race out because we're afraid. Let's do, you know what I'm talking about, Hannah. I'm going to get quite animated about this, in a minute, but it's just that Source has made such a distinction between where you put your mind and your thoughts in terms of the kind of future we're going to have moment by moment, that this discussion that we're having, and certainly the meditation you've created that we will give our listeners at the end, where it can actually take them on a journey to Paradise Earth so they can start to experience it and feel it so that they're embodying it.
Yes. And we will allow people to download that and keep it and play it to themselves, and we're not putting any limitations or restrictions or price or anything on that. It's something that's available to everybody. You mentioned about switching tracks. Let me switch tracks just for a moment, Aingeal Rose, only to bring in this issue of suicide, because suicide is like a feeling of futility, that the world is not going the way I want it to go, that my life doesn't have any meaning, that I have no control of what's happening, all of those kinds of issues. And I want to refer to a question that was asked also in Volume 1 of Answers from the Akashic Records, and it was about several of my friends have committed suicide. Can you help me understand what's going on there? And Aingeal Rose, she gave quite a lengthy answer actually, and I'm not going to read the whole answer, but just the parts that are relevant to the Paradise Earth scenario. And down towards the end of that answer, she said, there is unlimited opportunity in life. Life always continues. Life does not end. There are always more opportunities. We have to get hold of ourselves and become the creators that we are designed to be. On the one hand, Source does not judge anybody who takes themselves out of their contract, but that decision does not magically erase the challenges that they have as a soul. At some point, they will be given the opportunity again in another time period. There is no escape from our consciousness, and that's good news. Source encourages us to realize that life is unlimited opportunities, and we actually need every soul that we can get right now to tip the scales so that we are bringing forth the Paradise Earth timeline. This is what we are to do. This is what most of the indigos are here to do, to switch tracks so that we are bringing in the paradise reality instead of the manifestation of more suppressions of freedoms.
Right. That kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's the point that you're making, or that was made by Source, is that life continues. And so when we look at the truth is life always does find a way to continue, doesn't it, Ahonu? And we've used the example of over in Ireland, there's a beautiful place called the Burren. It's very barren. It's all rock, but it was once underwater. And out of that rock, though, the most beautiful orchids grow, and they're only found in a couple places in the world. But we've mentioned that, or we've mentioned, photographs you see where trees are growing out of cliffs and places where, or, flowers growing out of concrete even.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Where life seems impossible, but yet it flourishes.
It pushes through. Mm-hmm. Or places that, forests that have been burnt, that people mourn over and take issue with, but you go back some years later and you've got all this beautiful green new growth growing there.
So, in fact, I've often mentioned about the Californian redwood that it actually needs fire in order to split the seeds. And then when you come back after a year or two, you find young saplings growing up because it needed the potash from the fire in order to grow.
Right.
Yeah.
So life's directive, Source's directive, is for life.
Yeah.
It is not for death and destruction. It's for life. Okay. And it will always find a way to continue. And that's the ultimate fact of, that's the truth of God. And in terms of us being in alignment with that, another way we can say what we're talking about today is that your consciousness is really in the consciousness of promoting life, or it's in a consciousness of promoting death. And again, I may sound severe, but it's either or. You're either in a death consciousness with yourself or with the world, or you're in a life consciousness. And now's the choice time, because it's all about energy. And moment by moment, we are choosing what our quality of future is going to be. So once again, I am somebody who believes that one of the dangers of dogmas is that we make an identity of ourselves around a dogma, around a belief system. And those are all false, because the truth is you're not any of that. You're a consciousness that can be eternally creative, and it can come up with solutions to all sorts of things like we're seeing now happen in the world, where we've got these genius children being born who are already at very young ages inventing solutions to the ocean's pollution, to plastics, to energy, and scientists that are doing that as well. So that's the life force pushing through against all adversity and saying, look, there's always a solution to life. Like you were mentioning with people who commit suicide. And it's really the truth of anybody, not really just people who commit suicide, but, we all create a contract before we're born. We create a scenario where we would like to get certain things accomplished. And certainly somebody who commits suicide doesn't fulfill that contract, but a lot of people don't. And I have to say this so that people don't go into judgment around this. A lot of people don't. And it's okay, because life will always give you another opportunity. Now, it doesn't give you an excuse to just be horrible, because like attracts like. Whatever you do, you're going to experience at some point. That's just the law of attraction. We have to say that we're just making the point that life continues. You continue after death.
Indeed, doesn't the Course in Miracles say that the ego is out for murder? So in lots of ways, we actually, by dying, by accepting death as a reality, we're accepting that we've murdered ourselves. We've committed suicide.
Yeah, Sandra Ray, who was the founder of Rebirthing with Leonard Orr, had always had a phrase where she said, all death is suicide.
Yeah.
Remember that?
So
but that's another story.
It is, and let's be very forgiving about all of that for ourselves and others. Now, we did promise to play you the Meditation to Paradise Earth, but before we do, I just want to remind people that the discussion today is coming from Volume 1 of Answers from the Akashic Records, and you can get all of those. We've actually published 8 so far, and it's our intention that throughout this year we will publish the entire 100-volume collection. So do start that collection for yourself. There's some amazing words of wisdom in there, and you can find them on Amazon.com, and simply search for Answers from the Akashic Records, or search for Aingeal Rose, which is Aingeal Rose, Aingeal Rose, or myself, Ahonu, Ahonu, and you'll find us on Amazon. So do get hold of those books. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that on the first Sunday of every month, we also do the live group Akashic Record sessions. In other words, it's a session we do where people email us with their questions or somehow contact us with questions that they want answered. And we go into the Akashic Records, and Aingeal Rose downsteps the answers from source, and we broadcast the answers on our podcast, and we also put them on our website at worldofempowerment.com and other places, including Stitcher Radio and iTunes. So do connect with us and subscribe to those services where you will get those answers.
And do email us any questions that you have, not of a personal nature, but a global nature, a healing nature, a spiritual nature. That's what the first Sunday of every month is devoted to, is to answer those bigger questions. So do email us if you have those sorts of questions so that we can use them in our group and get them answered for you and have them broadcast.
Right. So we're going to say goodbye right now, but don't go away, because we're going to go straight into the Paradise Earth, and we will see you next time round. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for listening to myself, Ahonu, and to Aingeal Rose.
Onward, Ahonu.
Let us begin our journey to Paradise Earth. And let's begin by bringing to mind our intention. And let's be clear and pure in that intention. It is to travel to Paradise Earth, which already exists right now at a different frequency band to what we're familiar with here on Earth. We will journey there and bring back the frequency of perfection, the frequency of perfect love and joy and happiness, and integrate it into our own lives, into the lives of our families and friends, and outwards into our communities, our cities, our countries, our planet, and on outward into the universe. So close your eyes now and make yourself comfortable. And become aware of yourself sitting where you are. Feel the contact of your feet on the ground. And take a deep breath in and let go. And take another deep breath in, and on the out breath, really feel yourself letting go. Let it out with a loud noise. And one more deep breath in, and let it all go. Find yourself relaxing. Relax your head, Relax your forehead and your face and your jaw and your tongue. Relax your neck and your shoulders. Feel yourself relaxing downward into your arms and your hands and your fingers. Relax your stomach, your hips, your legs, and your feet. Now see in your mind's eye the number 3 appear 3 times. And then see the number 2 appear 3 times. And now see the number 1 appear 3 times. Relax. Know that you are perfectly safe and that you're always in full control of this journey. Know that you can open your eyes anytime and you can be back in your room anytime you like. Now look over to your right side in your mind's eye and see a staircase with 12 steps leading down to a hallway that leads to a quantum doorway to Paradise Earth. And just become aware of your surroundings. Is the staircase crystal or wood or stone? Is it cool or is it warm, rough or smooth? Begin going down your steps now. Down steps 1, 2, and 3. Each step going down becoming more relaxed, safer, more comfortable. Down steps 4, 5, and 6. Going deeper now, more relaxed as we go down steps 7, 8, and 9. More relaxed now as you go down steps 10, 11, and 12, and you find yourself in your hallway. And you can see a door ahead of you that leads to Paradise Earth. So as you stand in front of your quantum doorway to Paradise Earth, bring to mind what our intention is today. We will go through this door to Paradise Earth, and we will bring back the frequency of perfection, the frequency of perfect love and joy and happiness, and we will integrate it into our own lives. Standing in front of your quantum door now, when I count to 3, the door will open, and you will jump through the door into Paradise Earth. 1, 2, 3. Door open. Jump through the doorway into Paradise Earth now, and you will have plenty of time to explore, and I will come to bring you safely back in a few minutes. relax. It's time to come back now. So find your door that leads back into your hallway. And remember that you are bringing back with you the frequencies of Paradise Earth. So on the count of 3, your quantum door will open and you will jump back into your hallway. 1, 2, 3. Jump back into your hallway now. Door closing behind you. Going down your hallway now, walk towards your staircase and begin ascending the staircase now, up steps 12, 11, and 10. Bringing with you your experience now in full memory as you go up steps 9, 8, and 7. Slowly bring your awareness back into your body as you go up steps 6, 5, and 4. And begin stretching out your arms and your legs and begin to become aware of where you are right here, right now. Up steps 3, 2, and 1. And find yourself in your peaceful place. And when I count to 3, I will snap my fingers and you'll be wide awake, back in your room, feeling better than ever before. 1, 2, 3. Wide awake.
You've been listening to Answers from the Akashic Records, a world of empowerment service from Aingeal Rose Ahonu. To get the profound statements from the Akashic Records in your mailbox each week, log on to worldofempowerment.com.